Hello, fellow travelers, and welcome to Versus Stars podcast, third season. How my loyal listeners, thank you for continued support. And remember, click the subscribe button, everybody. This is a very special episode because legendary writer Mark Waid returns to the mothership. We talk his return to the Kingdom Come universe. Now come aboard as we go traversing the stars. Hi, Mr. Waid. Thank you so much for coming back to the Traversing the Stars podcast.
Absolutely, you bet.
It's a big honor once again as one of the legends of comic books. It's a big deal to have you back on the show.
It's very nice of you to say. Thank you.
Oh, no problem. So, one thing we're going to talk about is World's Finest that connects to Kingdom Come.
Yeah.
Now, for those who don't know Kingdom Come, it's one of the great legendary storylines. About 27 years ago, it came out. How do you think the series has aged over time, and how has your perspective on the series changed with that time?
It seems to have held up well. I mean, again, when we were doing it, we had no idea that it would end up being an evergreen like it has been, and that people would still be reading it 27 years ago or 27 years later. But so in that sense, my perspective has changed on it. I'm pleased that people seem to find it a classic.
Now, as far as the themes of the comic book, have they stayed consistent with your views over time?
Pretty much. I think that Superman's sort of over the top conservatism, law and order mentality, status quo symbol, I think making that side of the argument so clearly the correct side, I would have, in retrospect, I would like to have given that a little more shading, a little more gray area there, because again, it comes off like we're just talking like a bunch of old men shouting at clouds to some degree. So.
And so we're talking about 30 years later. So why was now the right time to revisit some of the themes that you explored in Kingdom Come?
A lot of it was just now was the opportunity. I mean, the original story, I've said this before, the original story of Boy Thunder that we ran in the last year in Kingdom Come, or in World's Finest rather, was my original idea for a Kingdom Come sequel, Kingdom Come follow-up back in the day. And that never came to be for whatever, I don't even remember what reason, but it's been sitting in a folder for 25 years. And it felt like, as I was trying to plan out what comes next with World's Finest, like, oh, well, this Superman sidekick, it's set in a continuity where it doesn't have to, in a past continuity where it doesn't have to worry, I don't have to worry about it connecting with the other Superman books. That's the way to do it. So I did that. And then again, that's, the story, the secrets, the surprise of how he becomes Magog, led me to, once I did that story in issues 7 through 12, then it was really just a matter of when am I going to get around to telling the second part of that story with Magog.
Now, once again, World's Finest, which is a great comic book, and for those who don't know, World's Finest is a team up of Batman and Superman, who's obviously the two most legendary characters in comic book history. I mean, they would have to be, right? So when did DC approach you and say, "Hey, would like you World's Finest, and this is something you can work on," or did you come to them like, "Hey, I want to do this title, and this Kingdom Come storyline needs to be part of my,
Not so much the latter. I mean, what happened was I had said to my editor, I was working with a few other things on Paul Kaminsky, and I said to him, my dream book would be World's Finest. And I'm not asking. I said I'm not even asking for it because at that time they had another Superman Batman book written by another writer that was excellent, and I'm not trying. I said I'm not trying to poach his job. If that job ever comes open, let me know. And so he went off and he talked to people and he came back and said, that's the book we want you to do. And then their request, DC's request, was just set it a little bit in the past. It is sort of indeterminate. It's still continuity, but just shove it a little bit in the past. And that way I'm able to use all the toys that people are familiar with, the Batcave and Gordon and, secret identities and all that stuff that doesn't necessarily reflect current Superman and Batman continuity. That way I can tell stories that are outside of that and I don't have to worry. I mean, when I started World's Finest, in modern continuity, Superman was on War World and Batman was, weirdly underground somehow. And I couldn't have done that story if I wanted to. So this seemed like the best solution, set it a little bit in the past.
Now, if sensible ranking of like to the top maybe five storyline comic book storylines of all time, Kingdom Come is probably somewhere in there. I mean, you got Kingdom Come, you got The Watchmen, you probably got one or two others like Killing Joke, someone would throw in there, but the Kingdom Come belongs there. And
Thank you.
no, it's I mean, it's just fact. But you're welcome. But once again, having done a story of that level, is there any trepidation about creating basically a sequel to a storyline that is that magnitude?
There is. I mean, I hedged my bets. I made it clear that it's not a sequel; it's a prequel, because a sequel done without Alex and it just feels wrong. And also, it sets me up for people who are expecting it to be, the beautiful painted grand saga that Kingdom Come was, and that's not what we're doing. So the idea was then, okay, let's do a prequel. Let's see some of the events that led up to Magog's role in Kingdom Come and how that came to be. So with that said, you'll see obviously some very familiar Kingdom Come faces, but there's other ones you just won't see because it felt to me like using characters that were created. I'm fine using characters that Alex and I co-created or that existed before Kingdom Come. I didn't want to use characters that Alex had come up with when he was a teenager, like Nightstar, or his dad, as Norman McKay. That just felt like, a little too divorced from Alex. I didn't want to, that seemed a little disrespectful. So another reason to do it as a prequel, because that way I don't have to deal with a lot of those, those Kingdom Come characters. I can just focus on, Superman, Batman, Flash, Green Lantern, Wonder Woman, some of the versions of those characters that exist in the current day Kingdom Come world.
Now, we're talking about Magog. Now, Magog since Kingdom Come has had a few retcons, a few different storylines from other writers who wanted to borrow the character.
Right. And this is another.
Yeah. No. Is there a version of that you're continuing from, or is this going to be that you wonder like, hey, I like this version that's going to one I'm kind of like counting on, or this totally a complete retcon from your perspective?
It's largely a retcon. When we get to see Gog in I think part 3 of the story, we are going to, as the story progresses, we'll make it clear I'm hewing very closely to the origins of that character that Alex set up when he was doing Justice Society books with Jeff Johns. So in that sense, Gog is not so much a retcon, but Magog is. Although with DC continuity blowing up every 10 minutes over the last 10 years, I'm not sure what counts as a retcon and what is just, oh, we're on another planet.
Honestly, I don't know if the fans do either at this point.
Yeah. I just figured, so it's just tell a good story. That's the rule 1. And this continuity and keeps up with continuity and knows tons about DC continuity of the past. My feeling is still just tell a good story.
When you're thinking about the character Dave Boy Thunder, once again, he's in that interesting moment where you kind of see him, he's a man, but he's not Magog yet.
Right.
He's full of this wrath toward Superman, specifically Batman as well, but specifically seems like more Superman. Is the anger directed fairly at them, or is it anger at himself that he's misdirecting?
It's a third. There's a third factor. There is some legitimate anger from him towards Superman and Batman for feeling to some degree like they promised they'd come find him, and then from his point of view, it's been years and years, and they never showed up. There's something else going on though too that will be revealed as we go on.
For Superman though, it hasn't been that long though. From Batman for the
right. Well, we play with this idea that time just passes differently in the Kingdom Come world, as it does in different parallel Earths on just time passes a little differently. So in this case, what has only been a few weeks or perhaps a couple of months to Superman and Batman and World's Finest has been, I don't know, 5 years maybe, or something along those lines in the Kingdom Come world.
So for Superman, looking at who was kind of like a sidekick for Boy Thunder and seeing what he has become, how much does Superman view this as his failure?
Oh, largely. He feels to some degree that this is his failure, but as I think we've hinted in the first couple of chapters of this book, of this arc, he looks upon he blames the Superman of the Kingdom Come world more. I
Mm.
mean, from Superman's point of view, they got a glimpse. Our Superman and Batman got a glimpse of the future of Kingdom Come, so they know about all the deaths, they know about all the carnage, they know how many heroes died, and then they come here. You know, Clark sees that on this world the Kents died early, and Clark was not there to save them. Clark didn't save. From his point of view, Clark, how could you do this? His point of view is, how could this Superman fail so badly? How does he not care enough? Does he not understand the responsibility enough? And so that's a big part of our Superman's anger in the story is he does feel guilty to some degree about Boy Thunder, but he feels a lot more anger towards the Superman of this Kingdom Come world.
As far as Superman perspective on Prime Superman's perspective on
Yeah,
this, does he view Kingdom Come Superman as being him, or does he still view this as a I mean, as far as this is definitely me who did, you know, in this, who could go in this direction, or does he view this as a distinctive, different version of him that is not related enough to for him to look at it and go, I could be this?
it's both. It's both. He wants to believe it's a completely separate version that he can never become, but that's a big part of his anger and fear is that deep down he looks at that Superman and wonders, is this what I do become?
Hmm. The other thing I think is interesting too that you point out is that there's no multiverse in Kingdom Come's world, at least from their knowledge.
From
Um,
either from on the Kingdom Come world, they know
right.
nothing about the multiverse, right?
So how having that issue 2021 has come out after that
Mm-hmm.
has not been it's not been out yet. How much of an impact does understanding the multiverse have, you think, on these heroes, not just in Kingdom Come, who don't know about it, but in the Prime universe because they do know that these things do exist? How does that affect them psychologically? How they would approach being who
Right.
they are?
It's well, in terms of the Kingdom Come characters, the idea of them not knowing it, I don't think there's that much impact to them, but there is a specific reason they do not know about it that we will learn as we go forth. For the Prime superheroes, the ones that we're familiar with, knowing there's a multiverse out there, I don't think they think about it that much because it's such a big concept. Because one of the issues you would have to accept if you accepted multiversal travel as an easy regular thing
Hmm.
is every universe is going to have certainly potentially has a slightly different definition of right and wrong. And with that in mind, then how does that there's there's a more let me rephrase this, there's a moral absolutism to Superman and to some degree a lot of the other superheroes, but it weakens if you look across the multiverse and realize that there's millions of Supermen with millions of different takes on exactly what is right and wrong.
Hmm.
So I think Superman doesn't, and the other heroes don't think about it too much because that's you start pulling on that thread, the whole tapestry unravels.
And I think it's really interesting, especially when you have Batman, the Kingdom Come Batman, trying to figure
Mm-hmm.
out who the other Batman, the Prime Batman, really is. And I
Yeah,
think it's kind of interesting because once again, Batman, the other Kingdom Come is probably also one of the smartest people in the world. Having his once again, he doesn't believe that that's Batman. Obviously, that's himself because once again, he doesn't know there's a multiverse. But how
right.
much is also would he want to know that there's a Batman who could maintain that moral center that he and Superman are not quite there with anymore?
I mean, he'd want to know. And again, there are revelations coming. I don't think it's going to be any secret to reveal that by the end of the story, both Superman and both Batman are, understand who the others are.
And like I said, it's just, and I think one of my favorite, well, without spoiling, well, the second issue of the storyline has already come out, so I don't know if it's quite really a spoiler or not a spoiler at this point, or viewed it. But there's also there's that scene near the end of that second issue where you have all the superheroes that are there.
Yeah,
Now, which yeah, and you have one of my favorite Firestorms, one of my favorite all time. It's cool to see in the back because I think he's been underutilized the last 20 something years.
yeah.
Um, did you pick the ones that you thought were coolest, or you just pick the ones that say would be fun to see on the page? Or they have specific functions of why it's these characters, not other characters?
No, I gave Dan just description that says just draw whatever you want. And it's not, in that case, I wouldn't normally do that because I feel like that's placing a burden on the artist. But in this case, I know Dan just basically lives to draw every single DC character at some point or another. And some of them are of his, there are 3 of them in there that are his invention that get a little more play next issue. But I think the only one we had to mess with, trying to remember, there was one that we had to change in production at the last second because it would have been a character that wouldn't have existed at that point in time. But other than that, it was just Dan having a field day.
Now, for the characters that you're that the artist created, are these characters that may have a future in DC
Oh yeah,
this?
yeah. It seems I want to burn them off because they're all good ideas. So it's just a matter of timing and trying to figure out when and where to put them.
Is it difficult to write sort of and have these characters where when you know where they have to end up in Kingdom Come, or do you think to yourself, this character definitely was going to have to die in the new project? You got to be careful which ones you're using or not using.
I don't know. I mean, it's not that hard because I tend to work best with sort of guardrails anyway, and trying to solve problems. So the idea of how to tell this story and yet not screw with the continuity of Kingdom Come, which we already did, but we'll get back to that in a second. I just see that as a challenge, not a problem. Alex is the one who called, not angrily, just puzzled, and looked at the very first issue and said, "Why is the Ray there dead in a coffin? He survived the battle." And I thought, my God, yes, he did. I went and I checked to make sure, but I missed it. Ray had survived the bomb. So, if we get lucky, maybe in the trade paperback, we can change it to somebody else. I don't know.
So, because there's the funeral scene, so this is then after Kingdom Come, or is it?
Yeah.
Okay, so it is
the funeral, yeah, the funeral scene in issue 1 is after the events of Kingdom Come. Like Barry Allen said, like the Flash said, when he sent them to this world, he said, "Look, the cosmic treadmill is made for specific Speed Force powered people, and it may be a little wonky for you guys. You may be bouncing around a little bit." So that's what happens. They show up post Kingdom Come. In terms of the story, it was because Superman needed to see the carnage that would be coming down the road, and that fuels his frustration with Kingdom Come Superman. In the real world, the reason that scene exists is because I wanted the Kingdom Come Superman with the black and red S in that story somewhere. But if we were going to play by the rules of this is a prequel, it couldn't.
And I think the other thing that's kind of interesting too is that there's a scene, a panel in the issue, maybe it might be more than one panel, but it's definitely a panel in the issue where Gog shows up and Superman of Kingdom Come nails before him. And to see Superman nail before anything is like, I'm trying to think of another moment where he intentionally was nailing before any other character. I mean, I think it might be a dark side in a Superman cartoon where he was like forced to for some reason, but for the most part, it's not a thing. So how powerful is that a moment for you as the writer, for Superman as a character, to see him do that to another individual?
I hope it does come across as a powerful moment. And again, it just sells the fact that whatever Gog is, whoever he is, however he's operating, it is at a level far above Superman.
Now, once again, Gog's just like Mad Gog, is another character that many writers have done many things with, for good or ill, but they've done it. And a lot of the storyline connects to Gog. Well, I know one of the storylines was Gog believing Superman was the god he was trying to follow in Superman's footsteps. Where are we with Gog at this moment? What are we accepting or not accepting as the continuity of this character?
Just pretend it's fresh meat. It's just, And actually, the Gog stuff is easier to reconcile in terms of retcons, because the Gog stuff that was told in Justice Society books and so forth, that all happened on, that didn't happen on the Kingdom Come world. It happened on a different, So all that to say, this is the first time anyone is seeing the Gog of the Kingdom Come world.
So are we looking at, now that you're playing in the Kingdom Come playground again, are we looking at a potential sequel one day as well, since we're doing the prequel?
Well, I mean, if Alex wakes up one morning and says, "Yes, I feel like painting, 200 pages again," which I don't foresee happening. But other than that, I just don't think there's any reason to do a sequel. I mean, it stands alone pretty well as its own story.
So also when you're thinking about this, I mean, the thing with Kingdom Come, once you put in Kingdom Come, this is a massive storyline. So what are the like how far ahead are we thinking about the ramifications of these issues in the future of the world's finest in DC, in
Mhm.
Kingdom Come's world? Like how far ahead would this be hitting, you think?
There's one thread that will continue in the world's finest book. Not immediately. It's not like a continued story, but there is something that we will set up in that thing that becomes, basically the second act of the Boy Thunder. If the original Boy Thunder story was Act One, and then this is Act Two, and then there's a third act somewhere down the road where we deal with David.
Okay. I just want to find out, like, I'm trying to get needle in some of the information because it sounds like fascinating. And the other thing was, how long is this particular storyline supposed to last?
This is 5 issues, mostly. Yeah.
Issues?
So yes, yeah.
So what can we look forward to in over the next 3 issues?
You can, without giving too much away. Let's see. I mean, Metron makes a big, important appearance in the third chapter. Yes, the third chapter. A lot of that is because I've never seen Batman and Metron interact with any great depth, and I thought that's an interesting pairing. I've not seen Superman and Metron have a long, intense conversation. That may be interesting. Because I love writing these characters meeting each other and having the kind of interactions that we have not seen them have.
Now, sorry to interrupt, is this Metron of Kingdom Come Metron or this Metron of Prime Metron?
Actually, in the DC multiverse as it exists right now, check with me a year from now, but as it exists right now, there are many parallel worlds, there are many parallel paths, but there is really only one apocalypse and only one new Genesis. So it is there is only the one Metron.
All right, that sounds cool. I wasn't sure. I thought I wasn't sure there was a Kingdom Come Metron
Yeah,
or
I
whatever.
wasn't sure either, but that's apparently yeah.
That's cool. So what other details can you share?
I wish I could share more. I'm trying to think what else we can share. There's really not much more that I can give. It would just give away too much. But there's a reason the multiverse is kept a secret from these characters. There's a reason that Gog seems to have so much sway. There's a reason why David is so willing to keep the secret of the multiverse, and that will be unveiled as we go.
Is there going to be an impact on the Prime universe now that they know about Kingdom Come?
Possibly. Possibly.
Good. So what else? Like what else are you going to be working on after? Oh, I meant to ask. Irredeemable. How's that? Is the
Yeah.
movie progressing? How are we doing with that?
Don't know. The strike, as you can imagine, the strike sort of put everything on hold. So I'm waiting to hear back as to whether the Irredeemable movie is continuing to move forward. Fingers crossed. Same with I can't say. That's something else. Okay. Same with another thing.
Oh, okay.
So we'll see.
So then what's next after this for you?
More World's Finest. I'm not leaving that book until they pry it out of my cold dead hands. More Shazam, we got the last 2 issues of the last days of Lex Luthor to come out next year. There's another thing July and August of next year for DC. And beyond that, that's plenty. Trust me, that's plenty.
Are you going to be revisiting the Irredeemable universe again to tell stories to coincide with the films?
That's the plan. Or not to coincide so much as just to we had talked about doing, Peter and I talked about doing not a prequel, a sequel to Irredeemable, and it's on our to-do list, and it's just a matter of trying to clear both our schedules.
Well, Mr. Waid, it's been an absolute honor to talk with you again. It's always a big deal. Have a
No, my pleasure. You too. Take care.